Hi ladies, this is Deborah and I'm back with another tutorial on using an 8x8 paper pad. So this is the same one that I've used before. It's called Paper Stash and it contains 36 papers and it's a collage stash. I think that's what it's called, collage. And it's Tim Holtz idea-ology. So it's got lots and lots of papers in and they're really beautiful. They've got, the backs are just as pretty as the fronts in a lot of things, and some of the backs are really good for journaling as well. So I thought I'd use some of more of these today and make something else. So this is going to be a little pocket, but it's a bit of a pocket with a bit of a difference, this one. First of all, I've taken two of the papers and they're non-directional. So by that I mean it wouldn't matter which way you looked at them, you wouldn't realise that they were upside down or not. And I think that's quite important because we're going to be doing something with them, you know, later on. You can use that way or this way, it doesn't matter. So that's why I've decided to go non-directional in this instance. And I've cut one of the papers in half, and that's 5 inches and 3 inches, and then I've trimmed across the side so they measure 5.5 inches wide. I will get that right in a moment. So they're 5 inches, one 5 inches and one 3, so there's no wastage. There are these pieces that are left over, but you can use those for something else, and I'll be putting all of those to good use later. And I've done that with the first paper, and then the second paper I have cut it in half. So it is 4 inches and 4 inches, and then trimmed the bit off the side, which is those pieces. So it is the same width. It is 5.5 inches wide. I hope that made sense. So we've got an 8x8 and we've cut it in half. So we've got two 4-inch pieces and trimmed the side to 5.5, and an 8x8 and cut it at 5 inches and 3 inches across, and then trimmed it to 5.5. So we've ended up with these little bits left, which I will put to use in my journal in another way. And then I'm also going to get rid of one of these. So if you use 3 pieces of paper, you could do one paper and then use these 2 pieces to create 2 lots of this, but I'm only creating one today. And I've cut them like that because I want them to stack on top of one another like this. And now I'm going to be using my envelope punch board to make something with them. This is the standard envelope punch board. I have a mini one as well, but this is the standard one. And I'm going to start by doing a punch at the 1 inch mark. And then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do a punch at the 2 inch mark. And then what I'm going to do, this is the biggest piece I'm working on, is I'm going to go to my craft mat. I won't do it here because this isn't a craft mat, and I'm going to cut those 2 pieces off there. So I'm just going to go and do that first. In fact, I'll do them all at once, and that will provide me with a tab which will sit there. So you can see now I have a tab here. I want to create another tab and then another tab. So I'm going to take the middle piece, and where I did that at 1 inch, I'm now going to do it at 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to flip it over, and this time, just put this on here so you can see, I flipped it over last time and I did the punch at the 2 inch mark last time. So now I'm going to, because I've come in, I need to decrease that by 1/2 inch. So I'm going to do it at the 1.5 inch mark. Okay, and I'll be taking those 2 pieces off. So now we've got 2 tabs, and because I now want the other one here, where I came to the 1.5 inch mark, I'm then going to go to the 2 inch mark this time and punch, and then I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to come to the 1 inch mark on this side. And now I'll take those to my mat and I will cut those down, and you'll see what happens. Once you've done that, you'll see you end up with 3 tabs, and they're actually going up the page, so they're not all in the same spot, which is what I wanted. I wanted it to look a bit different. Now what you can do if you like is you can move them all up so there's only a 1/2 inch between them, or roughly that much. So you could have them like that. it's up to you really. If you want more contrast, which maybe I do, you could do that. In fact, I'm going to, I think. Yeah, I'm actually going to turn the middle page over because there wasn't enough contrast for me between those two pieces of cardstock. And of course you could do more, you could make them wider and you could do more, but you've basically created 3 file folders or tabbed folders or whatever you want to call them. And now I need to turn them up and give them some sides so that I can make pockets out of them. Now if you want them like this so that they're closer together, that's fine, or you can have them like this. And if you're going to have them like this, then all you need to do is score down both edges, and I'm scoring at the 5-inch mark on these, and I'm doing all 3 of them at once, and also the 1/2-inch mark, and again all 3 at once, because that's enough to create a fold. And I will fix that fold up. In fact, I'll do that now. I will just burnish that so that each of them are folded over and burnished. Now you could do all that individually if that's what you want to do, but I just thought it saves time if you just do them all together. But I like to burnish my edges. That's what that's called when I'm running my tool down them to create a nice crisp line. They naturally want to fold that way because of how you've scored them. When you score something, you always fold it with the ridge on the outside, but you can turn them back like that. It works just as well. And then they're going to sit on top of one another, and I do think creating that contrast with that center page was a good idea. So we've got 3. I've got this whole craze at the moment for having 3 things like this on top of one another. That's cool. And I'm left with a piece, and I think that I could get this out of one of these. If I used one of these pieces, I could create that centerpiece in there. Because it doesn't have to go all the way along, it just has to go part of the way along. In fact, that one's too big for it, so I am going to use that. So the piece I'm left with in the center should be 4.5 inches. Before I do anything more, I'm going to ink those edges to give them a bit more definition. Just the top and bottom, and the sides, you can ink those, but ink them so they're folded over, otherwise it's just wasting your ink because you won't see that part. So they're inked, and I've cut these small pieces into 3, this one here, and they're all different sizes. It doesn't really matter, they'll all work just fine. Just happen to be how I cut it. One's going to be a little skinny, but it will still work because I can still manage to score it down the center. And this is a bit crooked, but that doesn't matter either. And this one. Okay, so we've got all those 3 done. I'm going to score those so that they sit nicely. Be careful if you're doing them small like that, you're putting your glue on them. This one's even got a tiny little tear in it, but it will work. So we'll start with the biggest one. And, oh, hang on, I better miter the corners so that we get nice things that aren't quite as bulky in the corners, and everything sits nicer in your journal that way. Now, We'll take this one and put it down. So just some glue on one side to start with. Stick it down on all the bits. And there's no good putting something in a pocket if it just falls through onto the other side, is there? Doesn't seem to me like that's going to work too well if you do that. And I'll just use this glue because it's coming out everywhere, which this glue tends to do a little bit. But it's a very good glue and I'm really enjoying using it, but it does tend to keep bubbling up from the nose cone, which is a little bit annoying. And then make sure they're on top of one another. And then I'm using this journal, which is my travel journal. I'm going to find a place to put this new pocket in here. I quite like this page. I think I'll put it on here so that that's very florally. I really like that. That's all a photograph of some tapestry stitching, but I think that this would look quite nice on here because it'll bring it back to some grunginess for me, which is much more me. And then down in here, and again I'll have to make some tags to put in here. And also I'm going to put some labels because now I've got some tabs, I will have something I can label, and I've got plenty of room to slip things in for journaling on here, which is what this is all about, to make something that I can use for journaling. This is Deborah. Thanks for joining me. Cheers.